Hi.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Ooh, it is afternoon. I was going to say good morning.
It's afternoon.
It is
What is time?
It is a Sunday shift, not a Monday shift.
On
It
a
is
Sunday.
shift.
Sunday shift on a Sunday.
On a Sunday.
It was raining this morning. I had like a nice hot coffee. I was just, enjoying the day.
Yeah, it didn't rain too much over in my end of the world. It did rain a little bit, but I barely noticed.
I enjoyed the rain. I drank coffee and watched some early Caroline Benson scenes.
Whew. I didn't watch Carly live, like that Carly, so I've only known Sarah Brown in like videos, flashbacks, and I was like, woo, okay. I understand some of the energy people have for her if they've watched for that long. Like, I get it now. I still love her, but I get the energy.
Problematic.
She was a problem.
She is very problem.
You know what Sarah Joy Brown knows how to do? Get a visceral reaction from folks.
Ooh, Lord. And she's also so nice, or like seems so nice in real life. Like sometimes I'll go on like her Instagram live. She just did one. She's like, you all are just like feeling a lot of feelings, and I hope that you're okay. I'm checking in. I was like, whoa, you are the anti-Carly, because she was just like, it's just been so hard. I hope you all are taking care of yourself, like reading the comments, like apologizing for not going live. So I just watched that, and then I was like, ooh, Sarah Brown, you are an actor. This is different.
Yes.
Also, Tanya, we caught up on Obi-Wan.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I really like it. I really like Obi-Wan.
So good.
Darth Vader scary or what? I was afraid for Obi-Wan. He just came out of the gate murdering folks left and right. Just because
it was a lot.
It was a lot. And the thing is that I had last weekend bought the comic books of Darth Vader comic books that showed what happened right after Revenge of the Sith, right after he becomes Darth Vader. And I should have been prepared, but to see it.
Listen, I also just for real life stuff, really appreciated Ewan McGregor just being like, let me tell you something, it's your racist ass. And I appreciated the video of him with the whole flex. I am the star and the executive producer here. We have beat streaming records. Thank you so much. And you can take your racist ass on. I love every part of the
Don't need your racist ass. Ewan said, I don't need your racist ass. Ewan's one of my OG white boys. So
you did say this.
I felt very validated by that. I also just appreciate his portrayal and his connection to Star Wars is really legacy. It spans both his character spans generations, but also his family connection to the series. And I just appreciate that he brings that OG Star Wars vibe, but he's also very much in the present. So I love Ewan and Obi-Wan.
I did too. So that's what my week's been. I'm that's how are you doing? That's how I'm doing. I watched Obi-Wan. You watched Stranger Things.
Yes, and now I'm rewatching it again because I didn't understand it the first time, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
Still not sure if I understand it. That's okay.
And I rewatched The Mandalorian and got a very late epiphany that apparently everyone else got that I didn't. But it's been also a cool week at work. We saved a whole bunch of renters from getting rent hikes. So
you're doing real world stuff.
And we also got a whole bunch of landlords mad at us, and they're going to continue to be mad at us. So
stay mad.
Always.
I was trolling Katy Perry on my main Twitter, and it was fun. I loved it. Somebody called me a complete moron, and I was like, "Damn, complete? Okay,
it's a lot.
It's a lot of morons."
Yeah.
So just we all do our parts. You say virtues, I troll Katy Perry.
We all have a part to play in order to make this world a better place. Okay.
Well, for me, it's the second half of Gemini season, so I'm just burnout and fading into the background. I am that Homer Simpson meme where he like backs up into the hedge. That's me.
I'm Grandpa Simpson, like walking in and like seeing what's going on and walking right back out. Like, oh no, this is not for me.
It's like the internet, but also like the world. So don't take it personally, internet.
And I'm like that evil guy with the beak nose. It's like
release the hounds.
Or as Palpatine says, do it.
Oh, a fave. A fave.
I guess.
Well,
that was a great
check. I want to get into this week of, I guess swoops are over, but I'm dustier than ever.
Sure. I mean, I guess that's what we're here to do. To talk
we're here to talk about. Here we go. Recap. Willow does her best Carly impersonation and snatches up Nina in the courtroom for allowing Scott to bring up Michael's past. Whatever. She went up the time that Nina treated her poorly when she was Charlotte's teacher and counted that as one of the reasons she doesn't deserve to see Wiley. The judge pulls Diana and Scott aside for their lines of questioning, mostly Scott, and Nina stops Scott from really going after Willow. Again, girl. Anyway, the judge decides that Willow has the final say on who can see their kid, denying Nina visitation. We also find out that Carly received the results of the DNA test, labeled paternity test. If you go back and do that screen cap, they labeled it paternity test because that's how much they're paying attention. Anyway, and Nina is Willow's mother. She doesn't tell Willow, and she lies to Drew about it. OG Caroline behavior, looking for Robin to come through and like really blow this up wide open. Sonny and Phyllis hear that Nina lost at the hearing, and Sonny searches for her. He ends up at Nell's grave and finds Nina's Claire's necklace. Nina was headed out of the country, but Sonny convinces her to stay and fight for Wiley. Switching gears to something I care about, we see the end of Cherry, with Terry telling Chet he has to take the job in Chicago. Broken heart emoji. At the Metro Court pool, there's a singles mixer / fundraiser. We're all very confused about what the funds are being raised for, but they're being raised. Sam spends her time talking to Spinelli, who is acting stranger than normal. Dante spends his time talking to Drew about the Sonny Michael feud. We have very little Dante time, which upsets me. Britt gets wasted. Brad takes video like a true bestie and in drops a new Dex. That's what all new white men on this show are called to me, Dex. So please get used to that. Also, Brando is the old Dex. So new Dex, who literally parachutes in and knocks Britt over. Dante fake arrests him, and we find out that they are old friends. Not from the old neighborhood, though, but from summer camp. New Dex and Sante end up at Charlie's with a drink, and Sam asks him about his past with Dante. New Dex admits that he is a drifter, and Sam says she might know a job for him. At the shooting range, Ava and Laura talk about Nicholas, and Laura convinces Ava to go home and give her marriage another shot. Anna and Valentine also spend time at the shooting range where they compete to see who hits their target. Anna obviously wins and says her prize is Valentine picking her up for a date later that night. She walks off and Valentine receives a call from Victor Ava heads to Windermere to find Nicholas at the same time that Spencer is looking for Esme. What they don't know, and what we have been made to see several times through flashbacks, is that Nicholas and Esme have sex upstairs. Both Ava and Spencer respectively beg their partners to take them back. Ava also tells Spencer that she will give him his allowance from his trust fund, but he needs to stay at Windermere and work on his relationship with Nicholas. Away from all that foolishness, Trina and Rory are at our house with Taggart and Portia. Portia is friendly and asking Rory questions, while Taggart is unimpressed and interrogates Rory. And that's our week.
Yep. That was the week.
That was the week. It was a short week. 4 days.
Which was the best part about it.
What was your favorite moment of the week?
What a funny question. Like, you're so funny.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a hilarious question, I think. I would, I guess, venture to say my favorite moment would be Robinson family shenanigans. When Trina came home with her date. I loved Real Andrews being protective papa. I loved with, Portia being supportive and excited that it's somebody else and not Spencer. Trina just gushing. Her and her mom having that moment of that was so adorable. I loved it. It was a cute way to end the week.
Yeah.
And like maybe the only cute thing that happened all week. I don't think anything else was particularly cute. I will say my favorite was Vanna. Mm-hmm. Which wasn't cute. It was like sultry and
steamy.
It was steamy. I also love that it like started with the like Ava and Valentine running into each other. And so it was kind of a throwback to that scene between Ava and Anna. I think it was back in February when Anna said, I don't know if there's such a thing as a happily ever after at the cast nine. So that was an interesting little throwback. And Valentine being like, oh, so you traded up from Nicholas to Victor? Because apparently he's having Victor tailed, which, and leads to like more like questions as we were left at the end of Vanna's scene about what's going on between Valentine and Victor. And so I definitely at the end of the scene was like frustrated, like, damn it, Victor, stop foiling my couple. So I didn't love that, but I have faith. Mm-hmm. And I just loved, I think what feels different about Vanna right now is Anna kind of opening up to Valentine at a time when he can't receive that, when he can't reciprocate, and how like torn I feel as an Anna fan, because I'm just like, what do you mean? Drop everything and be with her. But also knowing Valentine that he's got to have a good reason why, because this is the woman he's wanted his entire life. So I'm definitely intrigued, and I love the way that Finola and JPS just milk the hell out of every scene. They know exactly what to do and how to do it. And by they, I mean JPS knows how to follow the leader.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's what I've enjoyed the most is not anything with the writing, but it's all with like how actors are playing the moments. So like the moment with Vanna where he was like, "Oh, you bought your own?" She's like, "Obviously." Like it was just like I cracked up. She's like, "Clearly, I bought my own. What do you know who the fuck I am? I'm Anna Devane." Um, or like I love the whole interaction, like you said, Tanya, with the Robinsons. Um, and I love like the interaction at the very end of Taggart like walking out of the door while Trina and Portia were just like they both tilted their heads at the same time. Like
Yeah.
little things like that are so good. And it's just, I think, part of why I get frustrated with the writing, because we have such a wealth of talent with the actors who like know what they're doing and know their characters and kind of deserve better. I won't go too much further into that, but those were my like moments. Like obviously Vanna, obviously the Robinsons, just no notes. They're amazing. And I did love I love any Spencer Cam scene. Um just like watching and tracking that relationship over time between over actors, even between these two actors. You could tell they really enjoy working with each other. And I'm sure that for both of them, it's like a moment, like a break from other heavier scenes or whatever, like that they get to be together and like kind of joke and be this like duo. And I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I love that they, with each other, they get to play things they don't get to play with other people. It's like they can kind of have this friendly animosity between each other that doesn't quite translate in their other relationships, that both like endears us to them, but also there's like a little bit of catharsis there. So I appreciate Cameron's the cousins always.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, just where how it started, how it's going is Cam and Spencer.
Yeah.
um Tanya, who was your performer of the week? What a question.
I for I think performance, I think I want to give it to, for the single one person, I want to give it to Katie McMullen. I see that, the story is just like it's annoying, but I liked seeing, the angry, finally she's getting angry at Nina. She's not letting Nina run her over. The angry mom side, I kind of like that, the very protective. I also like the moment where she's trying to hint at, again, there's something wrong with her physically. I don't know what it is, but she had a brief kind of faint moment and people were like, are you okay? So, but I think her performance acting wise was really good this week. So I want to give it to her. But again, loving the ensembles of, the Robinson family, Brooke Kerr, Real Andrew, Tatiana Ali, beautiful. And speaking of playing to their moments, even though the story is a little whack, Perry Shin and Kelly Tebold, I don't know how to say her last name correctly, but oh my God, they were hilarious together, particularly Perry and Brad as Brad. I mean, he was just like comedy, just being very flirtatious and capturing all of Britt's shenanigans and just trying to encourage her to, just to live and flirt and have a good time and drink. I mean, they are really great friends together, and I'm so glad that they are on the show together. Perry's back, and hopefully he gets on contract soon. But yeah, I again give him a shout out.
Yeah, he was great. Another person who should also be on contract is Cassandra James. Yes. I loved her addition to their dynamic, and I would love for that to be a permanent addition, for like that to be a little triad of friends. I also really identified with her because I was like, oh, that's me when I'm out with someone who's too drunk. I'm the friend that's like, okay, you're embarrassing yourself. Okay, have you eaten? Like when she said, why don't we get you some food? I was like, why are you being me right now? Although I didn't love that this episode was supposed to be like the last day of AAPI month, but it actually was the first day of Pride. And that it was two queer and trans Asian characters looking after their cis straight white friend who's too drunk. Y'all. Not on Gaysian solstice. The most important day of the year to me personally.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I actually really do love that triad, and I think that we need more of that, like more friend groups. I was like, why? You know, I'm not gonna complain right here. Never mind. I think we need more friend groups. I have so many complaints, and I'm like, let me just not be negative Nancy like the whole time. I really enjoy the three of them. I love their dynamic. I kind of wish Brad would like start working at the hospital because we need more hospital friends.
Right.
We like, you know.
Also, shout out to Robert Adamson coming in and, you know, taking the part for Michael for a couple days. It was kind of refreshing to see him there. I mean, he's pretty good. Miss him on Young and the Restless, but you know, it is what it is.
Let's talk about that tip Milo Kim though.
The what?
That tip Milo Kim.
Yeah.
Because he and Willow, I said, oh, I get this now.
Yeah, I was definitely like, Katie.
I would like to see it.
Maybe, I know, is Katie married or in a relationship?
She is.
Yeah, she's in a relationship,
I think Robert is too. All right.
You know, actors.
Some people just spark. Some people just spark, and she sparked with him.
Yeah, I was like, at first, the first time I watched it, I was like, am I just making this up? But then when we watched it on the big screen, I was like,
I mean, even Wiley had chemistry with them. Like, why are your eyes sore? You know, what's going on? He was talking. He had a lot. Wiley had some good lines this week.
I also feel like is Temp Michael gonna be on longer than, because I know Chad's Michael is on next week, but Chad, when he talked about he was out for COVID, he said that he hadn't come back for filming yet, and then he was going to be coming back this week. So I'm assuming that we'll see Temp Michael again, but that they probably just film things out of order, which is why we'll see Chad again next week.
Interesting.
Sure, whatever.
Good job, Temp Michael.
Good job, Temp Michael. I'm gonna start watching some show on Netflix, or not Netflix, Hulu. I put it on my watch list now. That Temp Michael was in, and everybody said I should watch. I don't know what it's called. I forget. Lincoln Heights.
Oh,
I don't know.
No. Well, it's on my Hulu watch list. I'll text y'all.
I just knew before he even said anything. Like, he literally just walked across the screen and I was like, oh, there's a Temp Michael. And I immediately was like, everyone's gonna be like, why can't we keep him? Before he even started acting. Cause like that's what I'll say. I called that. To me, he felt a little not, this isn't it, I thought his acting was fine, but he feels like more like not like a rich boy. But I kept on being like, I bet, you know what, he knows where to get a good meatball sub. That was the vibe I was getting from this. He knows where to get a really good meatball sub. Like, I would trust his recommendation hands down. He's not going to send me to Subway.
What? He can't even. All right, well.
That's very unexpected insight there.
Well,
did he grow up in the old neighborhood with that there?
Yes.
You know what? He should actually be playing Cody, because
don't want you to be playing Cody.
Something that is not. Well, I'm just saying. I think he would be better as Cody than the other guy.
Did you hear the story of how that dude got cast?
No. Do tell.
He talked about it in Soap Opera Digest. It basically was like, I used to work on One Life to Live. I text Frank and was like, why am I not on GH? And Frank was like, are you serious? Because if you want to come on, I only have contract roles.
So wait a minute.
Go ahead. Talk it out. I'm ready. Let's talk it out.
So the producer says he only has contract roles rather than giving them to actors who should be on contract that's already on the show. He's going to give it to somebody else who doesn't need to be on the show. An extra character we don't care about. I was going to say what's not working is Cody is boring as hell. So why is he there? But he's going to. Okay.
I now call him Text Dex.
No, but what is up with not giving contracts to people who deserve contracts and in offering a contract to someone totally inconsequential?
Who's not necessary. Let me just get on my soapbox for a second. I'm glad you brought it up.
Okay.
Let me get on my Roger Howard soapbox.
Oh my goodness.
Is it that we are doing nothing with Roger?
Right.
What is Austin? This is absurd. No one cares. Everybody hates appearing with Maxie. And people were like, oh, maybe there'll be a little switcheroo situation where we'll get Britt and Austin because they have great chemistry. Like, that could be a very cute hospital couple, 2 doctors. We know Roger can play anything. Roger is too talented. I'm a little bit of a Roger stan. Not as much as like some of the Roger stans, but I'm a Roger stan. There's no reason that he shouldn't be doing better work than this. And not better as in he's not doing well with what they give him, better as in they don't give him anything. And he's too talented for that. So you're bringing on some dude from One Life to Live that I didn't even see because I wasn't even watching One Life to Live in the 1 year he was on. And you're not giving the work to somebody who was there and we know is talented and we know has really good chemistry with Britt.
Right.
I know there's been a lot of critique for Frank and bringing on One Life to Live folks. And I could kind of get it. Like if you didn't watch One Life to Live and then you're like watching all these actors from that show come and like take up time and space that you would have liked to see from the GH vets. But I watched One Life to Live, so I don't really care. I was just like, well, I kind of want to keep seeing my faves. But what I will say is that this man was no one's fave. I feel like, can we even call him? Like, I get it. If you've been on a show regularly, then you get to call yourself an alum of that show. But like, when I think One Life to Live alum that need a job, that we need to give them a job on GH, he's not even on the bottom of the list. I didn't even remember he was on the show. And I was watching at the time. And then I saw him and I was like, oh, that guy who looks like he drinks Natty Light and has truck nuts. And if you don't know what truck nuts are, Google at your own risk, but I promise you.
I don't want to Google, but
Sandra, why you so fucking this episode? I love it. Say more.
I mean, hello, Trevor St. John. The guy that played Christian Vega, I forgot his name. Hello, a lot cuter than Cody.
Actor.
Then they would have to write a Latino who wasn't just like Manny Ruiz.
Right.
And they don't know how to do that.
They're like, I'm sorry, we're not doing Latinos right now. We're doing Asians. And we were told we only had to do one.
And me, who told you that? Who told you that? And then there'll be somebody in the back, they'll be like, she said that.
These people from the network told us.
But I mean, you're right, Tracy. I mean, they are just totally not using Roger Howard. and I don't know what's going on that with Roger Howard. Maybe he just doesn't care and he just needs a paycheck right now. I don't know. But I would be like, I can do better and have done better and peace out. I don't know.
Well, they probably got him, they have him on contract again. So he's there.
They're also like, oh, this is like, whatever for Sante. And I'm like it's supposed to be like some foil for Sante. Sante has built-in conflict. You don't actually need to bring some random ass dude who went to camp with Dante to like give us drama. We don't even see Sante enough. How about you give me happy Sante before you give me drama Sante? You don't even show him enough. Give me shower sex Sante before you give me dew falling out the sky, like drama. Anyway. Whew. What's working on the show?
We do get to come back to what's not working, right? Okay.
Obviously,
what is working? I already talked about Britt and Brad. They're working. I'm liking the kind of hint at an Ava Spence thing, and I don't know Spencer thing. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm liking that, Spencer seems to be seeking or talking to her without necessarily, snarking at her. I think there's something's happening, and would love, I don't know, I can't wait to this whole Ava and Nicholas thing. I mean, not Ava, Esme and Nicholas thing blows up, because it's gonna be amazing. And when Spencer and Ava finds out. So that's it.
The hint something that might happen 2 months from now.
Right. That's working right now. That's all that's working.
I have 2 things that are working. Great sets, beautiful sets. The Metro Court pool, the Savoy, no notes. Great sets, beautiful sets. And Tabiana Ali is Trina. She is a legend in the making. She's an icon in the making. She is the moment. And if you haven't listened to our Twitter Spaces, we were able to like download it and put it up on our audio podcast platform. Tabiana is actually there for a good chunk of it. I think maybe the last 30 minutes, where she's doing like basically an impromptu Q&A. She talks about her religion. She talks about her activism. She talks about a bunch of different things. I would highly recommend it. She's so sweet. Really appreciated hearing her process. And yeah, she is working. Trina is working. Trina is that girl. She's carrying multiple stories. She was like thrown into the deep end with all of this, carrying all of this, and she has just carried it very well. So both the actress and the character, every time she's on screen, I'm excited to see her. Excited to see where she goes next. Excited to see her interpretation of Trina, the relationships. So Tabiana Ali and Trina is really working.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Her process, her talking about her process was like so beautiful, and she is an artiste. She's a real artist. For me, it was the Robinson Taggart family scenes, for all the reasons that you all have already named, about the family, about Tabiana, about Rael was killing me. I was screaming every time I looked at his face, just that's one of my favorite ways to really freak someone out, is just no. It was so good. Just unmoved by every like corny ass joke that Rory had.
Right.
Just like, it was also interesting like watching him be unmoved by like Rory kind of like talking up like, I'm a cop just like you, and Taggart was just like, and
I mean, he's like, you shouldn't admire me. I broke the ruls. You enjoy breaking
I
rules.
love
Are you that's why you hanging out with my daughter? Because you enjoy breaking rules.
Yeah.
It was so good.
It was amazing.
And I will say that also, like, Brooke was also killing me, and she had like the least kind of like, I just kind of felt like Brooke's interpretation was so interesting because she wasn't really the focus, but like you could feel like she was like, okay, I'm gonna like trying to put on a good impression for this cute boy. I don't want to embarrass my daughter, but I also am like, I'm trying to act like everything's fine, but also I'm like, my ex-husband is most, and I also love him for it, and I also need him to shut up. And the synchronicity and like the unspoken, like it's like her and Tabiana were having this like whole unspoken conversation between themselves the whole time. So I just love that family unit. They just gel in a way that you don't necessarily get to see with the other families on the canvas.
Yeah.
So they are working, and damn, we only saw them on Friday.
And that's what taking up like the most of the show that we've talked about because they're the best thing. And also, I think what you just said, Sandra, is so important that we do not see other family units that we want to see. Like, even when we do see certain families, it's like, okay, so we see Josh sometimes and Michael, but like we do all of this fighting over kids who we never see again.
Right.
So we're gonna like do all this fighting over Wiley, and then he was gonna go off somewhere in the sunset. We like y'all had this whole supposed kids party for Leo, and there was no kids there. It was all grown people and Chase singing. Like, where are the kids? Like, that's the point of soaps that we love, is like seeing like kids and families interact, and like that is really a part of it. And then like seeing like legacy characters, whether it's the same character or same actor or not, like the legacy characters that we watch grow up is like really important, which is why characters like Cam and Spencer and Josh are so important to the show, because we actually got to see them as younger kids to now, and we actually aren't getting an opportunity to do that with a bunch of the younger kids, aside from Wiley. Max got all these kids. Every last one of them has been full of drama. We don't see them. And Maxie is like a legacy kid. So like, of course we want to see a legacy child. You know what I mean? Like, it's just very interesting choices that are being made. I know we're going to talk about this in the previews for next week, but like, we're going to see all of Elizabeth's kids soon, and they're not going to be with Liz.
And I'm still waiting for the big Cassadine family dinner, because that family all together would be hilarious.
Especially now.
Right.
Yikes.
I can't wait. So hopefully, hint, hint, GH, make it happen. What else was working? Oh yeah, and again, I guess like Vanna's working. Yes, definitely working. I guess there's some stuff that's working. I just didn't see it.
It was not emphasized this week. There are things that are working. They were not emphasized this week.
That like leads me a little bit into like what's not working. I mean, obviously so much, but it's like this lack of cohesiveness between stories. And I think a lot about like when people say like, we started off talking about, for example, Obi-Wan Kenobi, people like, that's just fan service. What's wrong with fan service? Like, and I think that GH like does this thing where they just like drag out things that people like and don't give people any like, it's like the fandoms hold together like the hope for couples. Fandoms hold together like the hopes for storylines. If it wasn't for like Sabrina's online fandom, like what is the show giving us that really gives us Sabrina? In a way that like is not, I mean, like there are like those little moments, and it's because the actors are so good. But if you compare it to actors who are not good, if we didn't have like the talent we had, Sandra's face. Sandra looked up. If you compare it to like Marcus, for example, like but I just feel like they take for granted like fan bases and don't do fan service. Don't do like the very small things that like connect and that people, like that meme of like Leo looking at like watching TV and like pointing and being like, I remember that. Like those are like, I get that reference. Those are things that like soap fans really enjoy. And as somebody who watches like Grey's Anatomy, for example, and like they constantly give you that, they constantly give you those flashbacks. It was something I was thinking about. We don't know where Avery is. It's another kid that we haven't seen. Where the hell is Avery? Because Sunny out here finding Claire's necklaces at a gravesite, and Ava is at the gun range. Where is
and Carly's chest is holding on to an envelope and waving it in the air with everybody.
Carly out here being peak Carly with DNA test results. Has Carly ever been honest with DNA? I'm not even gonna get into that right now. But anyway, like there's just like no connection. So like even if Spencer would have said something to Ava like, "You friends with the person who kidnapped Uncle Sonny's kid?" You know what I mean? Like just like those connections aren't being made to like respect both like new fans and who are they bringing in, which I don't really know what will bring in new fans aside from like Spring and Vanna, to be honest. But like also what is the hope, what is like the retention for older fans? We see that on Days. I can only compare Days to that because it's the only other one I watch, where people are like so excited to see Bo and Hope back, like, or Bo came back as like this ghost, this not overused ghost like they do Mike. Like people were really excited. What is it that GH is doing for fans that like gets people excited? And it's not that much. And I think that's like something that's really not working. What about y'all?
I don't know if it's working or if it's something that they should highlight, but I was just thinking about what's interesting to me is that objects are getting a lot of story, right? So the clarinet, shout out to that clarinet, right? Now we have, the necklace. The necklace gets a lot of, airtime.
For years, actually.
For years, right? That's OG, right? We have now a new character called the envelope that has had a lot of screen time. Loving it. And then now Spencer introduced a new one, the sandwich. So we are getting a lot of objects that are more interesting than the story. And that's sad, that we're paying attention to these objects more than we are paying attention to what's happening in the story.
You're not lying.
I would say shout out to the props department, but right. Y'all didn't even bother to change the language on the DNA test. We don't have to call things paternity tests or maternity tests. We can just call them DNA tests because that's what they actually are. Just FYI, GH props department. This is your voice memo. You don't have to.
Nina being the father is quite a twist.
Wasn't expecting that.
Wasn't expecting it.
Right. But very good props. Just need a little, sometimes you just make sure that they're consistent. But props to props.
Sandra, what about you?
I mean, white men. They're not working. I don't know how much I really need to elaborate on that. Obviously, like I wasn't just being rude. I could not remember the Josh Kelly's character's name. Like I was like, Chet, no, Chet's leaving. And I seriously sat there for a full minute. I was like, I'm not going to look it up. I'm going to try to remember before I was like, oh, Cody. Got it. That's really what we needed, another white man whose backstory connection to Dante is summer camp. And it just had me thinking then all I could think about for the rest of the day was salute your shorts. You know, did they meet over an awful waffle? Did they defeat Zeke the plumber together? And like the storyline is going to be Zeke the plumber coming to haunt them, but it's actually Liz haunting them. What I just shared just now is more interesting than the story is going to be.
When they talked about that character, I thought it was going to be like this friend knew that Dante did something, like kind of like, I know what you did last summer type thing, and it's going to ruin your relationship with Sam and everybody else in Port Charles. But it's like nothing.
Maybe it'll get there.
I think that's supposed to be the implication, but I don't care. Just I don't care. And like it's I care about Dante and I don't care about this. I also despised the scene between Mo's kid and Joss.
Get it out of here.
It was awful.
Necessary.
Awful. You know who had the correct energy for that kid? Cameron Weber.
Cameron Weber.
Like, I was like, yes, fuck this kid. Like this narrative that somehow this person who was so entitled that he went up to Joss and said, like, and not went up to her, like took advantage of her trust as her classmate to take a study date and turn it into that you really think that all it took for him was to think, wow, I have sisters, and you think that really changed his mind?
No,
it was the Invader article too, don't forget that.
Oh yeah, right. And that's right, so that actually made her human to him, even though they already actually knew each other, like well enough for her to ask him to study with her. No, move on. I'm sorry, Mo, that we didn't like your kid the first time around, but guess what? We didn't like him the second time around either, and don't bring him around a third time because I'm never going to like him. Stop it. And I really appreciated, like, I really took the Cam portrayal as like William Lipton being like, no,
right,
because and I make that because of what he said the other day about Cam being considered a feminist for what he did, and William was like, not by William Lipton standards, he's not. What has he done to be deserve to be called a feminist? I agree, William. Yeah, I just really, really like, if y'all thought that was an arc for Joss and Cam, it wasn't. And it was honestly insulting. It was insulting. I hated it. And so it's like both like the centering of this boy who, why would we even care about him to begin with? And his like revelation, the decentering of Joss and not letting her have like a real reaction to it, like her just being like, I forgive you. I hated it.
Hated. And it didn't even like tie in. It wasn't even like, well, this kid can get it, why can't Spencer? Like, it was just like nothing. It was totally a throwaway. No tie into the I mean, this is what I'm talking about with like what's not working. No tie into the canvas, no tie into what's actually happening. Just these fucking one-offs. Because somebody was like, hey, we should do this.
Somebody was like, I wonder who that somebody who has many bad ideas about storyline.
I mean, he could have at least added something to it, like at the end, and be like, oh yeah, tell Trina that she dropped her something at the cemetery because I saw her with Spitzer that day. You know, he could have said something.
Anything.
Like anything that would have moved the story forward in some way that was useful.
It was a redemption arc. It was a redemption arc for a day player. Groundbreaking.
And they don't want to move the story forward.
Right.
Otherwise, there's like actually a million different things that they could be doing, but they like want the story to be at a stalemate.
I want to walk into the writer's room, like Lorianne Gilbert, and be like, boom, cat, I'm ready. Like, I just want to get people, I want to take a cane and just get people in formation. It's really bad in there. I'm tired of it.
It's also like, I don't know, I don't know what happens in these writers' rooms. I don't know what the process is for Frank. And like, I can't pretend to have that kind of insight about like what he has to answer to the network or whatever. The sense that I get is that it's like a very high focus on like quantitative data. So like, how are the ratings? What are the social media metrics look like? And not really at qualitative data, aka what are people saying? What are people's reactions to things? And like, what is the quality of interaction versus like people being outraged? And that also, it is a problem that happens across, like, not just in media, not just on TV, but like across professions, right? As like people that have to work with data, both of you, I'm sure, have seen this issue happen before. And so it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's not just about our butts in seats watching this show, because that's actually how you get something canceled, right? It's not canceled. It's not like, we're not in danger of being canceled, therefore we're going to just keep doing what we're doing. It's just not, it's like, it turns the show into a factory. And it's actually like reinforces like all the worst stereotypes about what a soap opera is, that it's like something that's like super commercial, that's not worthy of being looked at as art or quality entertainment. And like they buy into that in every way, versus the soaps that I loved in the 90s and the aughts that were defying that. And I think a lot of soaps have done that over the years, and I'm just not really seeing that from GH like at all.
Yeah, I want to move us into this because I have a lot to say in that, but we were going to talk a little bit about like the introduction to Carly's introduction on the canvas in '96 versus Esme now, because that's, I think, been a little bit of the comparison. So obviously we know that Nicholas and Esme had sex this week, and there was a lot of reaction around it, clearly. And so the two things I've seen, the biggest one has been like a comparison to Ava and Morgan, which I think is a valid conversation to have. I just don't want to have it right now. And then, we definitely can. But I wanted to focus in on what I think some of us have been talking about, especially around like sexism and misogyny in soap operas, which is like what the motivation is. And so 96, I wasn't watching yet. Sandra, I believe you were watching. Tanya, were you watching in 96?
Remember, 96, I was in school, so I was probably barely watching.
So Carly comes on the scene, rolls into town, befriends Monica, works her way into Tony and Bobby's marriage. She does it because she's mad at Bobby, and because she's also like a little bit of a monster. And she makes these decisions on her own. It's her own plan, and she has to deal with the fallout. And I think that her character has been dealing with some of that fallout for years and years and years, right? There are still people. I always think it's interesting about who you like based on like when you came into the story. So when I came into GH, Robin wasn't on the canvas. I came in when Carly was in the panic room. That was like the first arc I remember. So my Carly was Tamara Braun. I didn't know. I had to go back and like look at clips or read about some of the stuff that she had done before that. And so like it's so funny because I watched a couple of hours of Carly's intro and I was like, oh, I get it now. I get how people feel about her now. I mean, not saying that like I don't think she has grown. She clearly has, and like that people's like perception couldn't or shouldn't change or could change. But I definitely get like some of like the most vitriol hate of her, especially if like you're like a Liz fan, if you're a Robin fan, whatever. But I think that what's really clear about Carly is that like that motivation was hers. She had like some really fucked up lines around that if were done today, I think would be pretty unforgivable. Like her relationship with Keisha. I think if I'd have been watching 96, I'd have been like, oh, her? I'm good. Or 97 is when she got into with Keisha the most. I think what she said to Robin has been pretty unforgivable. And obviously, if this was happening in 2020 or 2022, we'd be like, nah. And so I was thinking a little bit about that with Esme, who we see is like doing things at the behest of Ryan. She has like absolutely no agency. And she, I mean, we actually don't know what her motivation is completely because we know the motivation around Ava is from Ryan. We actually don't know what the motivation is around like her disrupting Cam, Joss, and like the bullshit she's done to Trina. So anyway, just wanted to talk a little bit about how y'all feel about like the comparisons, how you feel. This is also what we could talk about like ick, as it is called, and the soapiness of it all. Yeah, so just wanted to like that framing and open up to y'all if y'all had anything about that.
I remember Carly, I guess the early Carly the most when she started interacting with Sunny and Jason. And I think she was passing off Michael as somebody, like I can't remember, like it was like either AJ's kid or Jason's kid, or it was just a whole shenanigan. And like maybe Tony thought, I don't remember.
Yes,
I remember
all of that is correct.
Yeah, and
yes.
So it was really hard. I thought she was brash. I didn't know her interaction with Keisha. I didn't necessarily, I thought Robin was very annoying. And so I was more on Carly's side than Robin, even though, Carly was clearly wrong in everything she was doing. So I don't know about the comparison of Carly to Esme per se. I don't think I think Carly is a force of nature on her own. So I don't, understand the comparison per se. I can understand comparison Esme to now a little bit, but I don't know. I think it's a little bit different with Carly. I'm really, the only interest I have in Esme and Nicholas is the fact that it's going to bring on some great scenes for Ava and Spencer. Or just try to at least get, Spencer and everybody, once it's out, to finally see that Esme is crazy. Now, I don't know if that means that Esme is going to disappear.
No.
I have, for some reason, I have a feeling that she's going to be, her and Nicholas are going to be together in some kind of way. And I don't know how they can pull it off, but I have a feeling that's where they're going to go, at least temporarily. And that's just like, I'm hoping, I guess we're joking on social media that this Nicholas isn't our Nicholas. He's like, our Nicholas is trapped on Cassadine Island somewhere and held against his will, and we're gonna see Tyler Christopher come on the scene. I'm just like seeing that this is just, I'm hoping it's a nail in Marcus Coloma's portrayal of Nicholas in a coffin. But I don't know, because it's just so crazy to me that he's still there. I'm just like, I don't know what to say. Yeah.
If he signed a 3-year contract, then this would be the 3rd year. So I am not joking when I say all the things that you just said. I'm like, I said, I'm not joking when I say this is not my Nicholas. I'm being
right
300,000% serious. I was watching at this when Carly came on. This was actually kind of like really the beginning of me, like this time period was the beginning of like me really watching, not just because it was on, but because I was really like hooked on the story. So this is like around like the Cassadines came in the middle of before Carly was discovered as, or like as Carly was being discovered as Bobby's daughter. So this was like a hot time at GH when I was really looking at like, oh, what were all the storylines that were coming up around this time? It was like a really crucial time that changed the show forever. So I think that's one of the ways in which like the Carly storyline and the Esme storyline feel very different. Like Carly was coming on of, well, first of all, of her own volition, right? It was her plan, like you named, Tracy. Like nobody was telling her to do this. This was all her. And like coming on as this like beloved legacy, beloved but also controversial legacy character, daughter, and breaking up a really important long-term couple, and like and a lot of, and ruining Tony's character is like one of the things that folks are the most upset at Carly about, that they still name to this day. Which, you know, I will say that going back and watching these scenes, it did like endear me to Tony again in a way that like I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about how Tony was before Carly, because they really made him fucking nuts in this whole arc, and he looked very stupid, very, very stupid. And he, you know, his character never really recovered after that. So I can see why people are upset about that, and the erasure of Tony that has kind of moved from there. Like he's not someone that a lot of people look back on. There's not a lot of Tony reminiscing,
right,
because of the way that his character went in those last few years. But yeah, I just don't see Esme having the kind of legs that Carly's character has had. You know, she's Ryan Chamberlain's daughter. Although I guess Faison's kids have been doing pretty well on the show. But also that's pretty well for the show in this era. But like none of them are going to be Carly. You know what I'm saying? And the way that the Carly stuff unfolded was just so different too. Like Esme's introduction was really all about like, you knew right from the start, this person's completely insane. And she's here to break up, not Neva as the beloved couple, but to be a barrier for Sprina. Like there's just so many ways, like this is Esme's story is so much like a teen young adult story versus Carly's story was an adult story. And that's another piece that feels really different. The kind of like grooming aspect of like Ryan and Esme's relationship, right? We haven't seen a lot of them together, but what we have seen has been very disturbing. We've seen that she did not actually want to seduce Nicholas, because we both saw Ryan tell her to do it, and then we saw him to tell her to do it again, and her be like, I guess, you know, like that's not Carly's decision to seduce Tony was her decision. And in her own way, she also convinced herself that she really wanted him. So we have like the daddy issues coming into play, but that's very different. It's just, there's so many things that, and this gets into this idea of like, oh, it's soapy, right? Something can be soapy and be well conceived, and like interesting and dynamic and generative, and something can be soapy and be poorly conceived and being entirely reliant on tropes and not on like character development, not on innovating story, not on any of the things that have made great soapy stories actually great instead of just trash.
Yeah, I think to the soapy piece, I feel like I have so much about this, and y'all have also sparked so much in my brain with what you said. To the soapy piece, I think that like it was something you said, like said you were like, it just means it's been on the soap before. It's like a trope. And like I do love things soapy and messy, and I don't begrudge anybody who wants that. I think that for me, I think about it in the sense of has it evolved over time? Like what soapy means has evolved. So Luke and Laura for the time was like soapy and everybody loved it. And like Elizabeth Taylor wanted to be like Helena, you know what I mean? Like that was like the thing. And now we'd be like, what the fuck do you mean? This is awful. And so then they tried to address it in the 90s. And when they tried to address it, it ended up for the 90s being really good, or I guess like it won people like awards or whatever. And in 2022, looking back, we're like, what the hell was that? That was really awful. So then they tried to address it again with Lulu, and it still ended up being all about Tony Geary. And it was about, it wasn't about what it should have been about. And so we actually didn't get a real resolution to that story until it was Laura telling the story and talking about it with Kevin, like at the beginning of Laura and Kevin's relationship. And that was like 2023 or 2013, 2014, 2023. Whew. That was the future.
Right.
But that was like 2013, 2014. So like it was like this story that was like soapy on one end didn't like we look back at it now and are like, I don't know about all that. And so I think that that also happens with like a story like Esme and Nicholas. What disgusts me is not this idea that like he slept with his son's girlfriend. That is whatever. It is that we have known these kids as kids for a while. So it's so like for us, they are still like young adults, and Nicholas is like Spencer's parent, and his relationship to Esme had been one of like protective parents.
Right.
Like one of you are my son's girlfriend, let me help you. It was not one of I'm your sugar daddy, let me put you up in a place, right? Because like for me personally, that would have been a little bit different. This is gross, like in a different way, because not just like the age difference, but the relationship that you have to her.
Well, literally called her a child in her defense, like last week, basically. Like,
yeah, exactly. And so yeah, it's like sure, it's like soapy, but it's also about like what is the like what else is there. So we know that that Esme had no real agency in the situation, that she was like sent by a man to do this to Nicholas, or like to have sex with Nicholas, where she kind of didn't want to, but maybe she did. And then he, because we know so much about her, it's not looked at as like he took advantage of her, but she didn't drug him. She didn't. Yeah, I mean, it's just like it enough has not happened between them for me to believe that she took any advantage of him or that she even seduced him. Like somebody being like, "Thank you for helping me," is seduction. That's and so for me personally, I just can't look at it as sure it's a mess and all that, but I do think that there is something that happens with the actors. So because like Marcus Coloma has been pushing this like thing all on social media, like, what do you guys think about the kids? What you guys think about whatever? And people are like, this shit is gross.
Right.
And so I saw him on like a live with with Mo just being like, oh, well, the fans think whatever and blah, blah, blah. And here comes like Johnny Wachter and like all of these people like defending it and like acting as if people are overreacting without actually reading behind like what people's problem with it is. It's the same thing that happened with like the Nixon Falls Nina storyline, where they're like, oh, it's just like a bunch of Carson fans who don't like it. Well, I don't think any of us are like specifically not fans of Carson. Like I'm like, it is what it is. But like none of us
I'm anti.
But like I think that we have varying like whatever. Like I think that none of us are like, oh my God, I can't believe you broke up Carly and Sonny. Like I don't think any of us are there. We're like, oh yeah, that happens. And they have a boom and bust. So it's not as if we're like, you broke up my couple. But that is the way, like when people give them like real feedback on why the story is bad, they like just listen to like whatever they think you're saying. And so I think that's what's also happening with like the Esme and Nicholas thing, where they're not hearing why people think it's gross.
There's like, it's about how you do it. It's not just about like all of that on the page. I do think that it being his son's girlfriend is gross. That is part of what literally grosses me out about it, in part because they're just out of high school and because of the nature of Spencer and Nicholas's relationship. Like, yeah, that's a big part of why it's gross to me. It's the age dynamics, it's the grooming, it's the I do think like, sure, maybe she seduced him, but it doesn't erase his participation, his consenting to what he knows is true, right? There's always going to be consent issues when people are withholding the truth from each other, but like what he thinks is the truth is still disgusting. So that doesn't absolve him of anything. If anything, it just makes it worse. And it's also like the way that that Marcus in particular, his entire feed for the last 48 hours is a giant. I mean, he's always a red flag for me, so that's no surprise. But just like the fact that he keeps bringing it up is the fixation has amplified. And it's like, it's that idea that any attention, negative or positive, is good. No. But it's also just beyond all of that, it's the context. So you could have that scene could have been implied, right?
We didn't have to see it.
We didn't have to see it the first time, and we surely didn't have to see it the sixth time. And we're going to continue to see it. Where we're not seeing that level of like, daytime graphic, right? Daytime graphic sex for any other couple. And we haven't and quite frankly, in years.
Right.
So right. That's what really kills me. It's not anyone, like, there's no one particular argument that I think is like more important than the other. It's the whole ecosystem that this storyline lives in. And It feels like a slap in the face to not just the vocal viewers on Twitter, right, or on social media, which, may or may not capture sentiments elsewhere. But I think when you have people like this unified, disgusted about a storyline, it's probably a shared sentiment. Mm-hmm. When we can't agree on most things. There's very few things that like social media can agree on a show like General Hospital, but this felt pretty uniform. There, of course, like were random people being like, but it's soapy, but da 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 da. But by and large, people were disgusted.
I think that what you said is like right on about it not happening anywhere else. And that's part of like the trolling of fans or like the lack of fan service. Like this show treats sex as like a major milestone as opposed to like something that consenting adults do together, right? So it took a very long time for us to see Sam and Dante together. I think the first time we saw them together might have been their first time together. So you telling me fine ass Sam and fine ass Dante ain't never did nothing until we saw, like, you know what I mean? Like, that is whatever. It took a long time for Chalene to even kiss. They haven't even had sex. Curtis and Portia, their whole thing was like, oh, there's like this distance between us. So they didn't have sex until Valentine's Day. Like, you know, like after they had been together all the time and had done it before. Like, so they treat sex as if it is this like major milestone. And we do not get like flashbacks. Like, I've never seen a scene of Curtis just like sitting around thinking about banging Portia. You know what I mean? And these are like two consenting adults in a relationship, or like there's not even they live together, so it's not even a phone call like I can't wait till I get home. You know how you know it's gonna go down. Like, it's none of that. But when we do see it, it is with them, and I think that is like part of what makes it so upsetting, that there is no like balance to hold it off. It's, I mean, in a different way, but in the same way, why every time we see people like sad or crying or whatever, we're like, we need more of like that Brit Brad Terry dynamic. We don't have enough of that. We don't have enough people having fun, going out, like doing like normal soapy fun things. Where was Brasha in this like mixer? Every time we see them, it's either Sasha popping pills or killing Harmony. We don't see them to do anything else. So why weren't they RIP Harmony? So like, why don't we see them like somewhere that's like out with their peers, like having fun?
We could have seen like one of the things I was going to say is like, we know that Anna and Valentine were supposed to go on a date because she won the contest. That night, she said, pick me up at 7. Why didn't we see that? We could have seen that interspersed with the whole, you know, singles mixture.
I don't know that they went on the date.
Or we could have seen like what happened with Valentine answering the phone. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, why we could have seen that. That's what we want to see.
Yes.
We want to see Vanna together. We want to see Chaylin together because I'm sick of them staring at each other across the room. We want to see Sante together. Instead, we get to see this thing that we don't want to see. That could have been implied. You could have used that time for something that we did want to see.
It could have been one shot, camera zoom.
Ended at that kiss, and then the next morning you see them on the floor with, you know, putting on their clothes. That's it. That gross ass kiss. We didn't even need to see the gross ass kiss, but we saw it. But they could have left it at that.
Yeah, I would say the Sante thing was like such a slap in the face that they were in all of these scenes together and like they didn't even interact. And I think that, I mean, they did like little touches and stuff, and I think that probably was like, to be honest, like Kelly and Dom like being like, okay, let's like give the fans what they want. But you have Sam talking to Spinelli and Dante talking to Sam's ex about Michael and Sonny. Nobody wants to see this.
I have, and as one of my hot takes is basically like, I was desperately holding on, even though I knew, no, I was trying not to be like, I know I'm going to be disappointed. I was like, I wanted to believe that I would like the Metrocourt pool scenes. It's my favorite set. And I love group scenes. And there were like a lot of people who were supposed to be featured that I was like, you know what? I would love to see more of them. And they somehow made it to be all like the most abysmal storylines featured and not, it wasn't fun. Like the most fun part was like the Brit, Terry, Brad stuff. Mm-hmm. But like, honestly, it was all about Brit and I don't really care about her story. And I'm not an anti-Brit person. I could easily be convinced to be interested in her story if it was actually interesting.
They threw us a bone and then dropped it. Selena has something on her. We don't know what it is. They dropped it. That could have been really interesting, whatever it was.
I mean, I'm sure they'll pick it back up.
But I'm not interested. I don't care anymore. So, you know, because they just dropped it.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, you had a hot take. Let's switch to free for all hot takes.
I'm depressed about Cherry. That's it. Yeah. It was depressing. I mean, their scenes were great. The breakup scenes were very mature, lovely. Wow, Terry's such a good person. And I was actually hoping that there would have been more processing of it at the Metro Court. But no, it was just about Britt making an ass of herself. Which, I mean, I don't know why we needed multiple days of that, but you know, I guess it's soapy something. I already said the thing about the meatball sub. You know, sandwiches were on my mind this week, I guess. Nicholas Chavez, who doesn't he have chemistry with? He has chemistry with this sandwich.
That sandwich chemistry was...
It did look like a very good sandwich.
It did.
You know, sometimes that set food doesn't look very good, but that looked like a good sandwich. Maybe a little dry though, but you know.
Yeah, I was like wondering, he didn't have anything to drink, no chips. So it must have been a really good sandwich.
He's if nothing else, he's a fine actor and he can eat a sandwich. Give me that Spencer Ava team up.
Right.
I'm tired. Like that's the only possible like thing that I'm interested in coming out of this like Nicholas and Esme shenanigans is like a temporary alliance between Spencer and Ava. Like I don't need them to be besties. I actually really like the idea of them just like hating having to be teamed up with each other the entire time. And the moment where they can split, they go back to like hating each other, but maybe like a little bit less vehemently, but also who knows, whatever.
Sniping at each other the whole way and
yes.
Just like these motherfuckers just told us, and we were just like, you know, just like yelling at each other and then still, you know, teaming up to kick them out.
I love it. I would love that. And because it's like we already know Esme's terrible. Spencer, like everyone but Nicholas knows that Esme's terrible. So it's like, why are we going to these lengths besides to character assassinate Nicholas, which I'm okay with. I'm very open to that. That's what I got.
I have oh wait, what?
It was just the way that Tanya said the expression on her face. Just like, what else?
I already switched over to like my little notes. I couldn't see Tanya's face. I have Carly should have told Willow. I mean, I get it. It's a soap, and we knew it was going to happen this way. But I'm pretty disgusted with it. Actually, I find it to be another way of taking like agency and choice away from Willow, which has been her entire arc the entire time she's been on the show. I don't like that. I don't care about Willow or care for Willow, but I think that a more interesting story than whatever they're about to play out would have been Carly just telling Willow and Willow deciding that she didn't want to have Nina in her life and like having to like struggle with that. And maybe even having it where Carly like kept that secret from Michael or whatever and like just told Willow. And that could have been a thing, but her not telling Willow doesn't sit right with me. I don't like it, but whatever.
And I don't like her lying to Drew.
Yeah.
Because if she had told Drew, then Drew might have been able to like he has been doing, kind of getting her to see the error of her ways in some aspects.
Dr. Drew in it?
Yeah, Dr. Drew and her, but she didn't even allow that to happen. So now, I mean, she's not gonna have any kind of way to make sure that this is done right. And I don't, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't like that as a potential of their relationship too, whatever they have. So
yeah. I just wasn't a fan. I mean, like, it's Pete Carly. But it's Pete Carly. I think that the motivation behind it is very flimsy.
Right.
I think that what Harmony said about not telling Nina was like hella flimsy. Like, she's gonna smother her with her. Like, what are you talking about? And I love Harmony, but I was like, this is no, who cares? So I don't think Carly owes Nina shit, but she should have told Willow.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that parents have every right to say who's going to be around their kid, which is why I grossly was on Millow's side through this whole thing. I also think that part of what happened was that we didn't talk about how fucking crazy what Nina did was. Like, that shit was crazy. And like, but because it's been framed as this love story, and because the writers don't have just refuse to have the range of like treating it better or like writing something like that was more nuanced, we have people like argue. Like, it's just like, I look at this, I'm like, okay, so this woman who has like been mentally unstable in the past created a whole life somewhere else with somebody else's husband. That seems crazy to me, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, now, because she lost a long shot petition that she filed herself, she is like falling apart and gonna flee the country. Turns out, if that's how unstable you are, maybe you don't need to be around Wiley. Or kidnap him, take him to Europe, and have Milo follow you and chase you around the continent for years, and it all be off screen. I would love it.
My comment on that was Sonny should have let her go and he should have went with her.
Yes, I would have loved it.
Island. He could have bought her a new dress and cheered her up.
Right.
The Sunny special.
The Sunny special. Very special.
Take them to the island or whatever.
Yeah, new dress. Good as new.
That would have pissed Carly off too. You took her to the island.
Good.
Yeah.
I feel like Carly's kind of done with it. Carly like, oh no, they together. I think it's like some pride shit, but she kind of like, so Drew, but kill some more DNA with me. What we doing?
Can we talk about how bad the scene was when Sonny was on the phone? He just was on the phone in the graveyard and there was just no one to help keep him afloat because he was just in a scene by himself. And I was like, he's drowning. Someone throw him a line.
Can we talk about
drowning before our eyes?
Can we talk about him being at Nell's grave?
That was crazy to me. I'm like,
this is not Sonny Corinthos. This is Mike Reeves. That man is gone. This is really bad. Let them be together, but let them just be together. Let's on a rise, please. Just let it be. I think that all of this is like trying to be Nina's redemption arc, but I reject it. She will not be redeemed. Nina sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Period. I know that probably shocks you all about me, that Nina cannot be redeemed to me, but shucks.
That is very shocking. I am so surprised.
I'm gonna ask this every week. Where's TJ?
Still in Brooklyn with the clarinet.
Yeah.
This man should be front and center.
He will be on next week. That's all I have to say.
Oh my God. Oh, I didn't tell Tanya about this because Tanya, you don't get soap opera digest.
What?
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Okay, let me get ready.
You got to get ready.
Okay.
The actor that plays Hat Daddy is talking about how, he's about to have a scene where he like tells everybody why he's there, what's happened in his past. And he was like, reading the GH script was like reading August Wilson.
What?
I'm so glad that this reaction has been captured.
This has to be a GIF. I don't know how to make a GIF, but I will Google it. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Feel your feelings. Fences.
I can't.
My Rainey's Black Bottom. Like GH on the same category, apparently.
Okay. Yeah. I have no words. That's just, I was gonna give the actor a benefit of the doubt. I was gonna not blame him for having to play a horrible character, and then he's gonna be like, no.
Well, you have Fences to look forward to.
I'm not gonna feel guilty. I am
when
not.
You don't give him Performer of the Week.
Right. I am not gonna feel guilty. I was gonna, when he got the Emmy nom, I was like, really? Over Bernie Watson, he gets the Emmy nom? Really? But then I was like, maybe there's just something that people are seeing that I'm not seeing because I'm biased. And now he's gonna verify my feelings for him by saying, comparing the writing to August Wilson.
To be fair, it's not anything that we've seen in the past. August Wilson is coming up.
Okay.
To be fair.
I guess we'll get your assessment next week, huh?
I cannot wait. I'm gonna text you. I'm gonna text you. I gotta get your reaction before we record. I need to know.
Okay.
And my last,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say my last hot take is they making Rory super cop, and it's just not working for me. I was very disappointed. Now, what I loved was Trina's reaction. Like when he left and she was like giggling with her mom and like had that moment. Ugh, I loved it so much because Trina doesn't get that. We don't get that like reaction. She hasn't recently. She hasn't even has the opportunity to be a teenager. She's been someone who's been going through hell. So I really loved that moment. But I thought that they were trying to do something like a foil to Spencer or like something that they want people to root for. And if dude is just gonna be super, super cop, also acting like a couponer, this ain't gonna be that. It ain't it. I'm sorry. It's just not it. And you know what? My mom's a couponer. So she always will tell you about her discount. You can ask my mom where she got something and she'll be like, oh yeah, I got this on sale at, and I'm like, mom, nobody asked you. It's very Midwest of her. Like nobody has asked you where you got anything at. You don't have to tell us about the sale. That was me and Rory. My dude.
I got it at Ross. Sorry.
See, now you got to get us flat.
Sorry.
It's fine. But I was like, so I definitely understood it, but this is not the sexiness I want on my soap. Like, I'm sorry, your discount, sir, and you being super cop, not what I'm here for.
Oh.
Anyway,
I have so many things to say about the discount, but I'm just going to keep it to myself. Just like, why do you sound like my mom? Because my mom too, she'll be like, oh yeah, I got it at Blake for this amount of money. And it was originally, you got to talk about the original price and then say, and I got it for this much. This was the tag price and I got it for this much. And I'm like, I love to talk about a deal. I mean, if I get a really good deal, I'm like, I got to call my mom. And I gotta let her know, Mom, this was how much it was, but by the time I was done with it, this is how much I paid. I wouldn't talk about it on a date though.
Not right. The first one.
No, that's like we're in it, you know, like we know about more of each other's flaws. Like you don't need to know how cheap I am. Right on the front end. It was not romantic. It, you know, discount plus cop talk is not the recipe for romance for me personally.
Yeah. It reminded me of the daddy from Everybody Hates Chris. Like that's how I see him, just like saving, like. And Trina is not my man got two jobs kind of girl. Like, that's not what we're doing. So anyway, that's my last hot take. Anything from you, Tanya?
A couple things. That room should have smelled like sex. It should have smelled like sex. And the flimsy excuses. Oh, the door was locked. Oh, the wind must have blown it shut. I'm like, what wind? What wind? He should have said the bats, because the bats was a stupid excuse as well of the noise on the balcony. All that to say is that it made Ava seem really simple or naive or stupid to believe whatever Nicholas had said. I mean, she made some sharp observations, but she should have not had accepted the excuses that he gave. And I'm upset about that, because Ava's too smart and too discerning to buy all that.
And too paranoid.
Right.
Ava is like one of her strongest characterizations is how paranoid she is in relationships. And that's actually like been the downfall of a lot of her relationships, especially after everything that happened with Ryan.
So that was definitely out of character writing. And so they definitely need to make that shit up to us. Because I think it was just really plot driven, but it was stupid.
I mean, it's also plot driven that Spencer needs to stay at Windermere to build his relationship with Nicholas. He could go live somewhere else and go have dinner with his dad every day. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I also hope that we get Fallout, because GH has been really bad with Fallout. And if Queen Mora, aka Ava, does not get a real fucking moment, a set of moments when she finds out the truth,
I mean, like,
about to be SDLCD.
Like, I mean, on the same level as horrible as it was, but what Sunny did to Claudia, that's what should happen to Nicholas. Like, it needs to be in a ballroom, and Ava needs to be like, and Ava and Spencer needs to
the vow renewal.
The vow renewal. She's gonna pretend, yes, she's gonna find out, and then she's gonna be like, oh, this vow renewal is gonna be off the chain.
Which would be delicious, because that's actually how their relationship started this time around, was listing up Valentina's wedding, where Nina did the same thing to Valentine.
Team Valentine.
It's classic Cassadine shenanigans, and it needs to happen. Ava and Mora deserve it.
I want her to take everything from him. I want her to have a better relationship with his son than he does.
Oh, all of it.
I want her to fuck his uncle. I want her to marry his uncle and be Valentine's stepmom. I want it to be a disaster. That's what I want.
Oh, I would love that. Oh my God, we should really be in the writer's room.
I would like to see it.
Love it. And they need to invite us to that wedding as part of the cast. Just part of the audience, you know, just random, random guests at the wedding.
You know what? The background actors continue to deliver.
Right.
The background actors at the pool. Great job. No notes. Love you, background actors.
Yeah.
It's work.
So we need to really figure out how to do this. Yeah. Just be in the background.
I'll just go hang out in the parking lot.
Okay.
Get hired.
Oh God.
You don't have Frank's number. What's the next best way?
Yeah. Everything else I talked about, but really I need Shaylin to stop staring at each other. Stop it.
Just put them in a bed.
Across the room, sitting across the table from each other, just inches from it, just staring. Stop it.
It was too much and not enough. And I will say I was team Brooklyn on this one because I thought it was a great plan for Chase to never be a cop again.
True.
So that's what I'll close on.
Mm-hmm.
Sandra, why don't you tell us what we have to look forward to?
I don't know that I can do that, but I can tell you what's in the previews for this week.
Yeah. Okay.
So where to begin? Let's talk about Wiley's Adults first. Wiley's Adults / ELQ, since they're basically the same storyline at this point. So Ned and Olivia proudly watch Leo bond with his horse until Valentine stops by with an offering. This scene has also been posted, the Valentine and Ned piece of it has been posted on the GH official site, and Valentine comes and like offers Charlotte's old writing stuff for Leo, which I don't really know why rich people need to give things to each other that are used, but maybe he's upcycling. I don't know. Drew talks with Michael about ELQ as Willow tells Carly she's come to a big decision. Then on Tuesday, Brando makes an offer to Sunny. Ned has a counter proposal for Michael, and Carly presses Drew about helping save ELQ. Then on Wednesday, we get Brasha in the mix, right? So Dante and Brando follow up on his suspicions about Dex. Wasn't aware that there needed to be suspicions about Dex, who has done nothing but be a random white man who I wouldn't be able to pick out of a lineup, but I digress. Sasha gets an upsetting delivery. I'm assuming it was not enough pills. Then on Thursday, Brando fears for Sasha's well-being. Hat Daddy. On Monday, Portia happily greets returning Curtis, Stella, and Marshall, who finally reveals the truth. And there's also a scene between Terry and TJ. On Tuesday, I guess Marshall's still explaining himself. And on Friday, Epiphany reconnects with Marshall. I know you're so excited, Tanya. For the Elizabeth storyline, Finn and Elizabeth are on Monday. In the previews, she said something to him like, "You are hurting me." I wish I could believe that they would actually like address him gaslighting her, but I'm sure it's going to be something else entirely about how he's being too good, and that's what hurts her so deeply. He is too good and manly and right all the time.
And he's a vampire.
And he's a vampire. Then they're in the previews again on Friday, and by they, I mean not Elizabeth. but everyone talking about her. Laura counsels Cameron through his worry about Liz. And Finn, Gregory, and Violet pack for a camping trip that we know will be happening the following week. That will be all of Liz's family, but not Liz, with Finn and Gregory and Violet, because that's what we want to see. I've started to call, until I come up with a better name, I'm just calling the Britt and Cody storyline Salute Your Shorts. So Brad and Albrecht stage an intervention for Britt on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, Britt calls her lawyer. Cool. Also on Wednesday, we have the Woos back in the mix. So Brooklyn blames Brad. And I will say, I don't care what Brad did. I'm on his side. And then Selena raises a concern to Sonny, probably about him being so publicly a little bitch, for lack of a better term. And then finally, the only storyline I care about this week, the sex tape. So Sam has an update for Carly. Trina can't help but react when Joss thinks about the future. Ava wonders what Nicholas is thinking about. So brace yourselves. There are going to be more flashbacks. I've gotten really good at anticipating when they're going to happen and averting my eyes. And then Spencer asks Esme about living at Windermere. Then Friday, Ava accuses Spencer of still having feelings for Trina. Who wouldn't? And Felicia and Mac unexpectedly cross with Ryan. And that's the week.
Well,
why does that still seem like a short week? Like it's only 3 days? Because that literally, that's how much it seems it will take. It's 3 days.
Because there's not very much to care about, to be honest. I will say the week after next looks more interesting. It's like a lot more of the kids.
It would have to be.
Anna will be a big emphasis the week after this week. So
they're not even going to do the date?
No. I don't even know what, because we still are on that same day on Port Charles time, although I think that this will probably be a new day. So I'm assuming that at the end of that Vanna scene, when he got the call from Victor, that he had to actually reschedule with Anna. And that's why he was like.
So now Anna's going to have another reason to be mad at Valentine.
Yes. But they will be going on their first date, their first official date next week. Not this week, but next.
Well, all right. Looking forward to those Spencer Ava scenes.
Yes, very much.
We can look forward to that. Yay.
I hope that Sam's update for Carly also gives us some movement in the sex tape storyline. I hope it's about that. That's where I grouped it in the spoilers, because what else could they possibly have to update on at this point?
I mean, what has she been doing? Wasn't there a spoiler?
Finding a job for Dick. Text Dick.
Wasn't there a spoiler where somebody was asking Spinelli for help?
That's next week.
That's
following. That's Joss and Trina.
Oh, okay.
So not this week, but the week after. Yes. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of Joss and Trina like scheming together, but again, next week, not this week. Sorry.
Oh.
That's it.
That
right.
feels, yeah. Well, you know.
I did say I couldn't give you, when you said, what do we have to look forward to? I warned you.
We have Ava and Spencer.
That's it. Yeah.
And the August Wilson style writing for the Ashfords.
Stop it. Stop.
That's mean, Tracy.
Good. I'll send you my digital copy of Soap Opera Digest so you can see it yourself.
I don't need that energy in my life.
All right, well, thank y'all for listening another week. Hopefully next week we are happier, have better things to talk about.
Tuesday, if you're in California, vote.
True.
Wednesday, watch Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I'll be doing that.
I'll be doing that. I'll be doing both of those things. Actually, I'm gonna vote today.
Me too.
Cool.
Yes, doing our civic duty. All right, friends. We'll see you next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.